So there's a line in that song that just slays me. And the line is this: the one who's disillusioned always pays the highest price. Obviously, this song is about a specific, I don't really know what the song is about specifically for you, but it seems like it's about a specific person. And as soon as I listened to it, how many of you, before I give myself up, how many of you have ever been disillusioned with someone in your life? Okay, so that's all of you. And how many of you in that disillusionment spent a lot of time blaming that other person? Most of you. And then there's some of you that won't tell the truth. So as soon as I heard this song, someone came to mind. Pretty quickly, actually. And I sat there realizing that I still had a little part in me. So it was someone that was so close to me, that I loved so deeply. This was family to me. Someone who I thought we would go into the sunset together as best friends, as sharing our lives together. And then something was asked of me that was not comfortable for me. I didn't want that part of that relationship. And so it was cut off. And I had that feeling of like, well, you're lost, because you're losing a lot here, which I still feel. But I realized what I was really left with was a disillusionment about friendship and about love. And for someone that teaches love only, forgive everything, remember who you are, and I do most of the time. But then there are those moments, as the song says, when I forget. And suddenly what creeps back in is this disillusionment that, oh my God, if that person could do that, how could I trust anybody? If this person could actually do this to me, and hear the words I'm using, do this to me. Now, you can't do anything to me, that's Philadelphia, to me. You can't do anything to me that I have not allowed you to do. You can't do anything to me that I am not equal to having done to me. You can't do anything to me that I am not literally a part of. So I understand all of this. But even in understanding all of this, a song like this comes along, and in the middle of a perfectly wonderful afternoon, I am just crippled. And I'm like, yeah, Brad, sing the song. I'll talk about it later. And move on. And even now, just sitting here, it still gets me. But the real point of this is, I'd forgotten you were God. That's what happens when we forget. We forget that person's God too, and they're on their own journey. And if I'm no longer part of their journey, that's their choice, their prerogative. I need to bless them, love them, still love them. Why would I withhold my love? Withhold my love now because you withheld your love? That's that game we get into, and all we're doing, and that's why I love that line, the disillusion, that's the worst part of it. So we're not hurting anybody but ourselves when we withhold, even when something's going on, even when something seems to have been done to us. So the title of my talk today is Sometimes We Forget, but I want to amend it, because what I realized was the title of my talk was Sometimes We Forget. It needs to be Sometimes I Forget, because I can't presume that you all forget. I think you probably do, but I don't want to presume that. And besides that, the only thing that ever happens on this planet always happens in my mind. When I say back to me, I say it as a joke sometimes, but I mean it. Back to me. It is all about me. Karen wrote a gorgeous song, It's All About Me, because it is. Because if I'm not experiencing it here, it's not experiencing itself anywhere because it's not in my mind. So it is all about me. So it has to be Sometimes I Forget. And so what do I forget? What do I forget when I forget? Well, when I forget something, it is always going to back itself into, I forget that I'm God. Because if I am God, and I am that drop of the ocean that is the entire ocean in a drop, if that's who I am, then I cannot go through my life with these obstacles and problems and have them hit me in such a way that I don't know who I am, which therefore obliterates those problems. That's how we do it, by remembering who we are. We think we fix these issues in our lives by getting in there and taking them and dealing with them. And yet, most of the time, probably all of the time, our job is to step back and say, I know who I am. Now what do I need to know in this situation? And it will always come down to love only. Forgive everything. And I do know who I am. So if I look at the four corners of my life, most of you know the four corners of a table, the four legs. Well, the four corners that we talk about here is health, relationships, finances, and creative expression. There's the four corners of your life: health, finances, relationships, creative expression. That table is strong. I can literally jump on top of that table and it will support me because my legs are strong. But any one of those four legs are wobbly and that table off balances me. So when I forget who I am in any of these corners, something happens. So this week, let's start with health. Obviously 6 years ago, I was told I had stage 4 cancer, and I did not forget who I was at all. I said, no, what do I need to learn here? What is there to know from this? And I moved on, and I moved through it. I knew who I was. Sometimes it's not as easy to remember that with the small things, like a cold or congestion, something simple that stops you. So in the middle of the week this week, I get back from Guatemala, and I had this breathing issue, and I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm getting this. Now I had a very busy week this week that just has not stopped. It won't stop till tonight when brushes is over. It's just been one thing after another, class after lecture, after wedding that I did yesterday, after rehearsals all week. It just didn't stop. I did not have time for any kind of congestion or to feel sick. I just didn't. But for a moment, just a moment, which went on for about 4 hours, I was sick. I literally was sick. For 4 hours, I was sick. It was nighttime, and I was sick, and it was around midnight, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to get up tomorrow, and I'm just, oh, what can I cancel? Oh, I can't cancel that. That's class. Oh, what can I do? And then suddenly, around 1 a.m., as I'm laying there in bed being sick, I went, why are you giving it? You're not sick. You're letting yourself be sick. Who are you? For God's sake. There you have it. I was like, now stop being sick. And I was like, I'm done. I can't be sick. I don't have time to be sick. I don't want to be sick. So I am not sick. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to wake up, and I'm going to be fine. Guess what happened? I woke up fine. And I'm fine. Whatever that congestion was, it kind of went away. And you know why it went away? Because I actually remembered who I was. Not because I went to the doctor, took drugs. It was because I remembered who I was. And not that I'm up here preaching Christian Science, saying we should never take any medicine or anything. I don't believe that. I believe it's all God. But I also believe the mind trumps everything. Everything. So there you go. So health, back in place. Okay? Also this week. So finances. Finances. How many of you have, you can raise your hand, how many of you have any issues with finances? Okay, so that's all of you. I'm just going to pretend. But no, I won't. I know some of you really know what you're doing financially, and I do too, except when I don't. Except when I forget. And there are moments when I do forget. And there's something that was going on this week, and it was all about finances, rather large finances in my life, big finances, bigger than any financial thing I've ever dealt with. And there were moments when I forgot that my financial good is infinite in scope. It cannot be contained. It's not, this one deal is not my whole life. This one thing doesn't have to happen exactly the way Mr. Control Freak thinks it should happen, and I do get to be Mr. Control Freak rarely. But there are moments when I still feel like I have to control it in order for it to be what I need it to be. Anybody? Bob, you raised your hand, good. So I'm dealing with this issue and these finances until suddenly it was causing so much problems in my own relationships that I had to take a deep breath and then go, wait a minute, oh my God, you just spent the last, and this one was like 10 hours, in the world of the relative, in the world of the facts. All of the facts, the figures, the zeros, how many, not enough zeros for me, the facts. And I went, do you or do you not believe that God is the source and substance of your supply and that you are the source and substance of your supply and that money, finances are infinite in scope. There is more opulence in this universe that is ours to have the minute we know who we are than we could ever possibly spend. Do you know that or not? And I was like, no, I'm talking to myself. Remember, I changed the title? So you gotta know that. So do I or don't I? And the answer was, yes, I do know that. And everything changed. It just shifted. I was like, whatever. And can I tell you something funny? That may not be, sure, go ahead. That may not be what I would have liked it to have been. It's still pretty amazing. And then this week, I made the most money I have ever made in a single week, and it had nothing to do with that. It was the strangest thing, and yet not strange at all, because the universe was reminding me, just say yes. We have you, as Aaron said. I got you covered. But every time you come to me and tell me that this isn't enough for you, all I hear is, you're not ready to receive. So what's it going to be, Mr. Minister? You're going to know the truth, or you're going to let yourself forget? Well, the truth is I forget sometimes, but I remember most of the time. And I would like my next time that this possibly may happen to not spend 10 hours forgetting. I'd like to bring it down at least to like 5. And then eventually, it should go like that. So that's finances. Now, relationships. When we talk about love and we talk about relationships, we talk about giving and receiving, right? I give my love, I receive love. Relationships work, and there's a beautiful symbiotic feeling between the two of us and all of that. But sometimes it doesn't go like that. Has anybody noticed? Have any of you ever felt that you gave more love than you received? A lot of others people are going, I'm not answering that. I am sitting next to my wife. That causes big problems, right? So I didn't mean you to. So, although you didn't raise your hands, Reverend Sandra. So this whole thing about love, sometimes I forget, again, that love is infinite in scope. And sometimes I forget that something can happen in the world of form that seems like, this is terrible. It still doesn't change that love is infinite. It still doesn't change what you feel. As someone who counsels a lot of couples, I can tell you, the quickest way back for a couple to get back into the love that they know is theirs is to remember that each one of them is God. And I know this song has a lot to do with that. To see God right there. Sometimes God doesn't have a good day. Doesn't mean you withhold your love. Sometimes God is acting like everything you can think of in the universe except God. Doesn't mean you withhold your love. Sometimes I forget that every single person on this planet is God. Because sometimes God is annoying. Have you ever noticed that? But if we can really still remember, even in the annoyance, it's still God, it changes everything. And my table is stronger. And then the last one, creative expression. Thinking that there is a limited amount of creativity in the universe. Thinking that there are a limited number of ideas. Thinking that there are a limited number of opportunities. If I had $1 for every actor who told me they couldn't get a job because there's just not enough work out there, I'd be a rich man, richer than I already am. There is opportunity everywhere. And here's the other part of this. When we talk about forgetting, somehow when age comes into the equation, we seem to forget we are unlimited because there's this number in front of us. And for some of us, like me, there's 61, looming big. No one believes that, but it's true. 61, right? There's 61. How am I watched the Tony Awards the other night because I hadn't seen them. I was in Guatemala. And it was 12:30 at night. And I said to Kevin, I'm just going to watch the opening of the Tony Awards. So I watched the opening, and then at 3 a.m. when I went to bed, I had watched the whole Tony Awards. Best Tony Awards ever. Wasn't it? How many of you watched it? That's great. That's our gay population. So, totally kidding, Bob. But Bob, you are gay at heart. First of all, you had a great life. You were one of the only straight male dancers on Broadway. What a potpourri. Yeah. So, it was a hard job, but someone had to fill it. So, wow. Back to me. So I watched the Tony Awards and I thought to myself, you never won a Tony. This was somewhere around 2 a.m. You've never won a Tony. And then that critical side of me said, you never got nominated. And then I went back and thought about the year I was supposed to be nominated, and for years I said that I should have been nominated. It was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. I mean, they made a mistake, but it wasn't a mistake. I mean, let's face it, I'm equal to everything that's ever happened to me, or will ever happen to me. So I thought to myself, I'm not done. I will be back on Broadway at some point in my life. I don't know when, how, or what. Who knows? Maybe that's where I'll do church, on Broadway. Who knows, right? But the opportunities, and I don't say to myself, well, I'm 61. I mean, what am I going to do? Go back and play the father in Long Day's Journey into Night? Maybe. I'm not playing Hamlet unless it's real far away. But that's what we have to really get in tune with. Where do we limit ourselves? Where do we forget? When it comes to our careers, and by the way, creative expression doesn't have to be career, it can just be vocation. Those of you that just took the Beyond Fear course with me. Career can sometimes block us. Careers sometimes are things we think of as jobs. Vocations are that thing that's coming through us. I believe they're the same, one and the same thing. So, where do you think you're limited? Where do you forget who you are? Where do you forget that in every single situation, the absolute universe is there with you saying, bring it on. But it can't bring it on if you're saying, I'm too old, not enough jobs, not enough options, I don't sing as well as I used to sing, I don't look as good as I used to look. I mean, I do. But if you're saying that to yourself, somebody said to me the other day, and I almost took offense till I realized it was a compliment. They said, you are much better looking now than you were when you were a young man. I was like, oh. Because first I thought, I was great looking as a young man. Then I thought, oh, but okay. So where do you limit yourself? So you've got those four corners of your table. What's wobbly? Whatever's wobbly, I can tell you here right now, the only way to make it strong, the only way to firm up that table is to stop forgetting. Or, as the song says, remember. I remembered that I forgot that I was God. I remember I forgot all the things that I have within me to do, to be, to experience. And the last thing I want to bring up here is sometimes we forget to have fun. Sometimes we just forget to have fun. This whole month is about enjoyment. How much fun are you having in your life? And I have a little story about that too. So on Friday, I got through my chest, whatever that was. I went through, did my class, did the speaking engagement I had, then did the other class. So I went class, lecture, class. Friday I got up, I was busy all day, rehearsing all day, and then it was time to go to the Hollywood Bowl. And I was like, oh my God, there's got to be an excuse for me not to go to this. There's got to be a way for me not to go sit with 17,000 people singing Doe a Deer. This will kill me. This will kill me. Yeah. And wait till they get to the lonely goat herd. I will be done. So, yodelay, 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 yee-hoo. Yeah, I had that part down. So, I said to Kevin, I was like, there's got to be a way that we can not go to these. He goes, absolutely not. We are going to the Hollywood Bowl to sing The Sound of Music. I was like, okay, got it. I will compromise. Even though it's my church, I'm the pastor, and I'm the one that suggested this. So we go to the Hollywood Bowl. We're stuck in traffic trying to get there, and I'm sitting in traffic going, knew it. See, now we're in traffic. So my mind and I went, wait a minute, are you going to enjoy this or not? I said to myself, not to Kevin, because then we would have had another discussion. I was like, are you going to enjoy this? You are a choice. You can either enjoy this evening or not. What's it going to be? And so I chose to enjoy it. So we get into the parking structure. We were sent to a parking structure I didn't know existed in this state. It was way up, like so far up, and all I'm thinking is, it's gonna be a long walk back. And so we get all the way up there. There's a little escalator, takes you right down. I was like, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought. And then we see Ray and Sonny standing in line, dressed as the Von Trapps or something, and they're like waving at me, and they're in the midst of all these fake nuns and things. I was like, what are you doing? They said, we're going on stage. And my heart was like, wow, I really had to have gotten more into the spirit of this. Oh, and as we're driving to the Hollywood Bowl, there's all these people in lederhosen and walking around. They're all dressed up. And I was like, these people know how to enjoy their lives. And I wasn't going to come to this. So we get in there, and then I go to pick up my friend down at the gate. We come back in, and he says, where are our seats? Did you get us? Do we have a box? And I was like, oh. I might have forgotten to tell you where we're sitting when I invited you, but I said, we're up there a little. And so we're walking, and he went, I wouldn't have gone to the gym today, James, if you had told me we were taking this hike. And by the time we get up there, and everybody's sitting there, and I just have to tell you, it was one of the most fun nights I've had in forever. The laughing and the immensity of it. And watching The Sound of Music again. I haven't watched that movie in forever. Watching it with 17,000 people who answer back to the screen, like that Rocky Horror thing. Like when Rolf comes into the things at the end, and you hear 17,000 people go, watch out! That was fun, you know? And I had no idea that many people knew how to sing I Have Confidence. I mean, really, what will this day be like? And everybody goes, I wonder! It was just great. So the reason I'm bringing next year, now you're going to be a bigger party next year. Next year's West Side Story. Kidding. So, could you imagine? I'd be like, yeah! Do it! So again, I think sometimes we forget to have fun because we forget who we are. Really. So you got the rest of this summer to have summer fun, then you get fall fun, Halloween fun, then we're into the Christmas holidays fun, then we go right into brand new year fun, then we've got Easter fun, and now we're back at summer fun. It's just nothing but fun. The entire calendar, if you are willing to live your life that way. So the great psychologist Abraham Maslow said, fascination is the simplest version of a peak experience. Think about this. Fascination is the simplest version of a peak experience. I think we have forgotten how to be fascinated with life. I do. I think we've forgotten how to be curious about everything in life. We think we know so much. I thought I knew what the Hollywood Bowl was going to be like. It wasn't anything like what I expected it to be. So what if that's true about everything? What if all we need to do is become more fascinated with our lives, more fascinated with our partners, more fascinated with our friends, more fascinated with our creative expression, more fascinated with our health? We are living in a time, Karen Mitchell just backstage, she gave me some balm for my fingernails, and she was telling me about this, what's it called? Boom thing. And it's pro-aging, not anti-aging, pro-aging. And I was fascinated. I was like, send me an email, I'll buy it. There's so much to be fascinated with. The worst thing you can do is to stand still and think you know everything. At the lecture on Thursday, I said to people, I said, you know, a woman was sharing that she felt that she wasn't smart enough for the job she had. And this was a speaking engagement that had nothing to do with religion at all. It was about talking to their people about getting them re-inspired with their jobs. So she said she didn't think she was smart enough, and I was asking her why, and one thing after another, I said, you know what the thing is? We always think we want to be the smartest person in the room. But let me tell you, when you're the smartest person in the room, it's exhausting. Trust me, I know. When you are the smartest person in the room, it's exhausting. Everybody wants what you have. They want you to answer the questions. I have been in the room when I have been the stupidest person in the room. I had to give a talk once to an organization that was physicists and psychologists. And I remember before I knew who I was going to talk to, I was like, I can't talk to them. I don't know anything that they know. I just know spirituality. And I had to get over myself because being the person in the room that knew the least in terms of facts and figures, they brought me to such a high level. Don't you want to be around people that take you higher? People that inspire you, people you can be fascinated with? If you're not fascinated with your friends, turn them in for new ones. Really, if your friends don't inspire you and excite you and find things to be fascinated about, then you're in the wrong group. I don't know what I just did with you all, but... Because here's the deal. If all of your friends are in this room, then you're all going to be fascinating, right? So that's our job. So sometimes I forget. And then sometimes I remember. And I think our job here is to remember more than we forget. That's all. It's a simple job. You can start right now to say to yourself, I intend for the rest of my life to remember who I am more than I forget who I am. And if I just remember more today than I did yesterday, and I remember more tomorrow than I did today or the day before, then exponentially, life can't help but getting better and better and better. So let's get rid of the complacency of thinking we're good right where we are, knowing that we're perfect right where we are, and start using our minds to remember. That song really did a beautiful number on my mind and on my heart. Because as I sat there crying, listening to the lyrics, I let go of so much that I was still holding on to. And now, that person that I talked about, I have nothing but love for. I want nothing but the highest and the best for this person's life. And regardless of what shows up in the world, and I love that last verse, and even if I never, ever see that person again, I don't have to, because it's done. It's resolved. Love only. Forgive everything. And finally, remember who you are. Namaste.